Pre-Islamic Arabia emits a landscape scarred by rampant social and spiritual evils. Idol worship, the killing of daughters, and centuries-long feuds over trivial matters cast a dark spell over the land. Usury flourished, slaves endured brutal treatment, and women were relegated to an inferior status. Robbery, loot, and plunder were the order of the day, staining the desert sands with greed and violence. And a society plagued by obscenity and adultery grappled with stark class distinctions. The Arabian Peninsula is enclosed to the east by the Arabian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman, to the south by the Arabian Sea and the Indian Ocean, to the west by the Red Sea, and to the north by Jordan and Iraq. Arabs are said to be the descendants of Sam or Shem, one of the sons of Noah. Linguistically, the word Arab means deserts and waste barren land, almost waterless and treeless. Ever since the dawn of history, the Arabian Peninsula and its people have been called Arabs. Mostly deserts and sandy places, which rendered it inaccessible to foreigners and invaders and allowed its people complete liberty and independence through the ages, despite the presence of two neighboring great empires, the Roman and the Persian. 4 types of marriages were practiced in pre-Islamic Arabia. The first resembled contemporary marriage. In the second type, a husband would send his wife to cohabit with another man to conceive, and her husband could still have relations with her. In the third type, less than 10 men would have relations with a woman. If she gave birth to a child, she would summon those men and point to one of them saying, "I have given birth to a child and it's yours." The man pointed to had to accept responsibility. In the fourth type, many men would have relations with a prostitute. She would signal her availability with a flag at her house. If she became pregnant, she would gather these men, and a seeress would identify the child's father and would then take the child as their own. Pre-Islamic Arabs had no limited number of wives. They could marry 2 sisters at the same time, or even to marry the wives of their fathers if divorced or widowed. The obscenity of adultery prevailed almost among all social classes except few men and women whose self-dignity prevented them from committing such an act. Female slaves constituted the greatest calamity. It seemed that the greatest majority of pre-Islamic Arabs did not feel ashamed of committing this obscenity. Life in pre-Islamic Arabia was paradoxical and presented a gloomy picture of contrasts. While some Arabs held children dear to their hearts and cherished them greatly, others buried their female children alive. The custom of killing of their daughters was widespread among the Banu Tamim and the Quraysh tribes. They took pride in killing their daughters, and it was for them a status symbol. Family or tribal pride was one of the strongest passions. The doctrine of unity of blood as the principles that bound the Arabs into a social unity was formed and supported by tribal pride. Their undisputed motto was, "Support your brother, whether he is an oppressor or oppressed." Before the appearance of Islam, Arab tribes acknowledged neither the Creator nor reward and punishment, while others were convinced of the existence of the Creator but not of the reward and punishment or the Day of Judgment. Some tribes also believed in the Day of Judgment, as they believed that the idols would intercede to Allah on their behalf. Mostly they worshipped idols. Some of them worshipped fire, other stars and the moon. They had transformed the Kaaba in Mecca into a center of idolatry and kept 360 idols inside Kaaba. Jews had also come and settled in Al-Madinah, which was called Yathrib at that time. Banu Qurayza, Banu Nadir and Banu Qaynuqa were the most renowned Jewish tribes. Christians had also settled in areas such as Ghassan and Najran, and some people of Khuzah tribe had also converted to Christianity. In Arabia, there were other places called Kaaba besides the one in Mecca. For instance, the Ghassan tribes had constructed a house similar to Kaaba, which was called Qalis. They even performed Hajj there. Another tribe, Banu Khatham, had also built a house calling it Zul Khalasa to perform Hajj there. In Najran, the Christians had built a temple which they called Kaaba. On the top of this Christian Kaaba, there was an idol called Shams. Pictures of Ibrahim, Ismail, Isa and Maryam were also worshipped there. The Arabs also believed in good and bad omens. They held crows to be very inauspicious and something that caused separation. And all was very unlucky to them, for its hooting cries they believed it caused death and destruction. Sneezing also carried an ill omen to them. Some of them were sorcerers, and they dealt in sorcery and performed heavy exercises to befriend Satan. Soothsayers were found in large number in Arabia. A Kahin was one who claimed to have information about the unseen events of the past, while those giving information about the future were called Arraf. Fighting would break out over petty matters and insignificant incidents. Once hostilities began, they could continue on for several generations and even centuries. There were more than 100 feuds during the days of ignorance before Islam. Deceit, cheating, and conniving in trade and businesses were plentiful. They were addicted to looting the travelers and snatching away the goods by force. On finding someone making a journey alone, they covered and hid the wheels which were on the way with grass and other things so that the traveler would die of the thirst and they would take their goods. Some of them were proverbially expert in committing theft. These thieves were called Dhubanul Arab, meaning wolves of Arabia. Conceit had touched its peak. They were so arrogant that they would never seek counsel or ask for advice. In case the Arabs failed to take revenge on their enemy during his lifetime, they made his sons and grandsons the target of their revenge. Upon the death of someone, the relatives would tear at their faces and hair and cry in pain. Women would follow the funeral with their hair untied and head dusted. Like the Hindus in India, they would shave their heads and beard to mourn over the death of a relative. Women would also shave their heads and would be called for lamenting in loud voices. The Arabs believed in jinns, demons and fairies. They also believed that jinn and humans could have a sexual intercourse to give birth to children. It was their belief that the Queen Bilqis of Saba or Queen of Sheba was a result of a union between a human and a fairy. We may sum up the social situation in Arabia by saying that the Arabs of the pre-Islamic periods were groping about in the dark and ignorance, entangled in a mesh of superstitions, paralyzing their mind and driving them to lead an animal-like life. The woman was a marketable commodity and regarded as a piece of inanimate property. Inter-tribal relationships were fragile. Greed for wealth and involvement in futile wars were the main objectives that governed their chiefs' self-centered policies. The Kaaba in Mecca, originally a place of monotheistic worship, had become a center for pagan idolatry. Yet amid the prevailing darkness, a glimmer of monotheistic light persisted. Some Pakis of Arabia held on to the legacy of Abraham, his teachings echoing through the whispers of the winds. It was against this backdrop that a pivotal figure emerged, destined to reshape the very fabric of Arabian society, the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing of Allah be upon him. Wassalamu alaikum